If you're running a restaurant and you can't tell me your real food cost percentage from last month, you're flying blind. You know money's tight. You see the invoices. You feel that squeeze every time you sign off on a truck. But someone asks, what's your food cost? You either guess, give an old number, or say, my accountant handles that. Meanwhile, your margins keep getting crushed. Here's the thing. The math is not that complicated. In this video, we're going to strip it down. No accountant speak, no fancy software. Just simple, real-world formulas that you can use in any restaurant. By the end of this video, there are 4 things that you're going to know. The one food cost formula that actually matters, how to use it for your whole restaurant, how to break it down for a single menu item, and how to see if the fixes you make are actually working. In the last video, we talked a lot about things that blow up your food cost. Guessing orders, portion creep, blind delivery sign-offs. Now, it's time for the math that shows you whether or not those habits are getting better or worse. Let's start with the big one, your overall food cost percentage. Food cost percentage is just one question. For every dollar I bring in from food sales, how much did I spend on the food itself? If your food cost is 30%, that means for every dollar that I sell, I spend 30 cents on the food. If it's 38%, you're spending 38 cents. That extra 8 cents per dollar is the difference between we're good and I'm broke. Now, depending on where you look and who you ask, there are a bunch of different floating numbers out there or floating targets. For quick service and fast casual restaurants, a good target is usually 28 to 30%. For casual dining all the way up to fine dining, you're going to range anywhere between 30 and maybe 36, 37, 38%, even more in some cases. What I don't want you to do is get hung up on the perfect number just yet. First, you need to be able to calculate any number at all. And to do that, you need one core formula. Here's the formula that restaurants use to figure out their food cost for any given period. Beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals food cost for the period. Then, your food cost for the period divided by your food sales for the period equals your food cost percentage. I know that sounds like a lot, but let's put it into real life perspective. Imagine you run a casual restaurant in the neighborhood. You want to know your food cost for the month of June. So here's step 1, beginning inventory. On June 1st, you count everything in your restaurant that is food, including goods in process, and anything that would code to your food cost as well. In my restaurants, that also includes things like coffee, tea, sodas, non-alcoholic beverage. Let's say that total is $6,000. Step 2 is purchases. All through June, you buy food from vendors. Take all of those invoices and add it up into one solid total. Let's just say you bought $10,000 worth of food in June. Step 3, ending inventory. On June 30th or July 1st, whichever you prefer, you count all of your inventory again. Let's say it totals out to $5,000 this time. Now, let's go plug it into the formula. Beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory. So we have 6,000 plus 10,000 minus 5,000 equals 11,000. So that means you used $11,000 worth of food product in the month of June. This is what actually left the shelves. Either sold, wasted, overportioned, given away, stolen. The math doesn't care which. It just knows it's gone. Now we're going to need the food sales for June. Let's say you go to your POS, you pull your sales report for the month, and in food in particular, you sold $33,000. So we have our food cost divided by food sales. This would look like $11,000 divided by $33,000. That equals 0.333, repeating forever. Or if you multiply that by 100, you get 33.3%. That's your food cost for June, about 33%. That's not a vibe. It's not a guess. It is a real number that you get to start working with now. Now let's do a quick service example with smaller numbers. Say you run a burger or a taco shop. You want to check last week's food cost. I have 2 quick service restaurants that I actually manage, and I highly recommend that if you have these types of restaurants that you do your inventory weekly. Let's say you did your count last Monday. You have an inventory count or a rough inventory count of about $3,000. During that week, you buy $4,000 worth of food. End of the week, either Sunday night or Monday morning before you open, you recount your whole inventory again. This time, your ending inventory is $2,500. So here's your formula. 3,000 plus 4,000 minus 2,500 equals 4,500. Now you go to your POS, you pull your sales report for that week, And let's say it says you did $15,000 in sales. Let's go back to the formula. 4,500 divided by 15,000 equals 0.3. Again, we can multiply this by 100 and we get 30%. So your QSR is running at a 30% clip that week. 30% for that type of restaurant is actually pretty good. I'll take it. But if you ran this same formula last week and got 26%, and now it's 30%, that 4% jump should be a big red flag for you to look at. That's when you need to start asking, did we overorder? Did our portion control get sloppy? Did we accept bad product or get shorted off of our delivery? Which, if you watched the previous video, all of this should start to sound pretty similar. And if you haven't yet, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now you know your big picture, but you also need to know what's going on at the plate level. This is where you answer the question, does this menu item actually make sense? The basic formula for a single item looks like this. Total cost of ingredients for the dish divided by selling price equals your item food cost percentage. Let's do one for casual dining and one for more like a quick service type of restaurant. You have a grilled chicken plate on the menu for $22. Here's what goes on the plate at your cost. All right, let's add everything up. All of this together equals $4.50. Now divide $4.50 by $22 and you get 0.2045, right? So basically 20.5% food cost. This is actually a really great margin for just about any restaurant. Now, quick service. You sell a cheeseburger combo for $12. Now let's break down the food cost. Everything that goes on the plate looks like this. When we add all this together, we get $3.80. $3.80 divided by $12 equals 0.3166, or right around 31.7% food cost. For QSR, around 30 to 32% might be exactly where you want to be, depending on your labor and your rent. Now, one thing I didn't touch on in either of these examples is a lot of operators will tell you to add in a labor percentage to your food cost, right? What are you paying someone to actually go ahead and make that dish? I don't really do that in any of my restaurants as the math seems to be a bit imperfect. Instead, I add 5 to 10% of the total cost of the ingredients as a plate up cost just to cover all my bases. So why does this matter? Because when your overall food cost is too high, you can dig into your menu and see which items are superstars and which ones are problem children. But there's one more concept that you need first. Theoretical versus actual food cost. And this is where the leaks really are. Now that you've got the formulas, let's talk about why the numbers that you expect and the numbers that you get are usually pretty different. Theoretical food cost is what your food cost should be if every portion matches the recipe, there's zero waste, no comps, no staff meals, no theft or extras walking out the door. It's based on your recipes, your menu mix, and to some extent, it's based on your budget. Actual food cost is what we just calculated with inventory and purchases. That's the real world number, the one that you can actually use. The gap between theoretical and actual is where your real problem lies. If your item level math says you should be running at 28%, but your actuals say you're running at 34%, that 6% difference isn't a mystery. It's just behavior. Overordering and waste, portion creep on the line, blind receiving and vendor errors, comps and staff meals not being tracked appropriately, product walking out the back door. This is why the last video matters. When you stop guessing orders and start using par levels, your inventory stops swinging back and forth wildly like a pendulum. When you enforce portions with scales and scoops, your actual usage starts actually matching the recipe. When you actually check deliveries, you stop paying for food that you didn't get. All of those habits are levers to pull on to close the gap between theoretical and actual. Then, the math will get to tell you if the lever you pulled actually moved anything in the first place. Now you might be thinking, okay, cool, the math makes sense, but I don't have time to live in Excel. And honestly though, if that's your excuse, shame on you. You don't need a perfect system. You need a simple routine that you can repeat and that you'll actually do. Here's a version that works for pretty much every restaurant. Step 1, pick your rhythm. You get to decide how often that you check your food cost percentage. If your volume is high and your prices move fast, like quick service or fast casual, I recommend doing your inventory every week to 2 weeks and running a food cost that way. For casual through fine dining, every 2 weeks to monthly is perfectly fine. Monthly is by far the most common. Let's say you choose weekly. Same day, same time, every week. Either Sunday at close or Monday before your opening. The time and the day doesn't really matter as long as you do it the same time every single week. Step 2, do a quick, honest inventory. You don't have to weigh every single fry, but you do need a consistent method. Count full cases and estimate partials the same way every week. Use a simple sheet. Proteins, produce, dairy, dry, frozen, other. If you don't have a price list already, get one. Then you can focus on just counting inventory and not worry about finding the prices in the moment. It is super easy to set up in Excel. If you want to see exactly how I set this up for my restaurants, drop a comment below. Beginning inventory is whatever you counted last week. Ending inventory is what you're going to count this week. Step 3, track your purchases. Most POS or bookkeeping softwares can give you a simple report of vendor purchases for the week or for the month, or you can just go ahead and add them all up by hand. Make sure you're only counting food though, not paper, not equipment, and not chemicals. Step 4, from your POS, pull a report for your food sales for your preferred time period, whether it's week to week, every 2 weeks, or whether it's that full month. I highly suggest excluding alcohol and running an entirely separate sheet just to track your alcohol cost of goods. Step 5, plug it into the formula. Beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory equals food cost. Your food cost divided by your food sales equals your food cost percentage. That's it. You don't have to build a CFO dashboard. 5 lines in a Google sheet will usually do you just fine. Step 6, ask this question. Every time you calculate food cost, I want you to ask this question. Is the number moving the way I expect based on the changes we made? If you just tighten portion control on your top 5 items, started checking deliveries, or finally set par levels, you should start to see that number respond over a few weeks. If it doesn't, that tells you that the habit either wasn't implemented, wasn't enforced, or you have another problem that we need to dig out. Either way, the math is feedback. It ain't there to impress your bank. It's there to tell your operation is getting tighter or looser. Let's put this all together. You now have 3 levels of food cost math. Number 1, overall food cost for a period. Number 2, item level food cost. And number 3, the gap between theoretical and actual food cost. The habits we talked about in the video before this one is how you influence these numbers. When you combine solid habits with simple math, you stop managing by gut feeling and start managing by reality. And here's where this gets really powerful and really fun. Once you know your item level food costs, you can redesign your entire menu. You get a lot more autonomy to do things the way you want. You can raise prices where the math demands it. You can rework or shrink items that are problems. You get to feature items and dishes that are going to make you the most money. That's all menu engineering. And that is where we are going soon on this channel. So here's your homework. Don't overcomplicate it. Just do this for the next 7 days. Number 1, pick a period and calculate your real food cost using the formula. Number 2, choose one menu item and calculate its plate level food cost. Once you've done that, come back and drop a comment. What type of restaurant do you have? And what was your food cost? Was your food cost higher or lower than you expected it to be? And if you're having any issues with your food cost that I haven't addressed in the last 2 videos, let me know that as well, and I'll see where I can help. If you want a restaurant where the numbers finally make sense and it doesn't feel like chaos all the time, hit subscribe. My name is Nick, and I'll see you at the pass.